when you have a setback, don't take a step back because God is already preparing your comeback. A comeback is not a go back. So don't look for life the way it used to be because you'll be looking for the rest of your life. Just realize we can fail, but to quote John Maxwell,
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the None of Your Business podcast. And we have a very special return guest. We're getting it done properly today from SoFi Stadium. Last time we spoke, you were in your car.
I was.
Today we got the great mics, we got the great backdrop, and we got the great Tim Storey.
I mean, who else gets to do a podcast in SoFi Stadium?
I know.
That's pretty
Guys,
pretty
this
awesome.
is a $4 billion stadium, just so you know.
That's super awesome.
I mean, even the screen behind us is $1 billion.
Yes.
The screen.
Yes.
It's this unbelievable stadium.
But I want to know, listen, we live in a turbulent world, in turbulent times right now. People come to you for seeking comfort, seeking calmness in a chaotic world. I would love to kind of get your take on what you are seeing right now in this world. What is your take? How is the world that we live in today?
Yeah, I think that what happens in anybody's life is there's times we have momentum, and it's almost like somebody who is riding a wave, and you feel the wave of momentum. But then we have life interruptions. An interruption is a disturbance. So as a kid, that could be maybe your parents got divorced or something challenging happened to your health. But I think that right now as a society, there's so many life interruptions happening to people at one time that what I'm seeing as a therapist is people are feeling very overwhelmed.
It's really interesting because what you're talking about is a lot of external circumstance.
Yes.
That creates disruptions for us internally. And so how do you help people find an internal steadiness without having to always look outwardly? Because I know that a lot of people are always looking outwardly to find that.
That's a perfect way of saying it. And I think that most of what people do is look at things through their senses, right? So outwardly, but it's the inward strength that allows us to go through the life interruptions. So I call it staying steady in unsteady times.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? We have to anchor ourselves in something.
Yeah.
So a lot of people anchor themselves in their marriage, like you guys. They anchor themselves in their extended family. But also they also add faith to that, their relationship with God. And I know that's a big part of all three of our lives. So for me, anchoring myself in God and his promises helps me to stay steady in unsteady times.
When we talk unsteady times, we're talking economy, we're talking the political climate, we're talking about all of the uncertainty that tomorrow brings. And yes, these are external things, but it's easy. And you talked about this overwhelm. It's so easy for us to get caught up in, well, what's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen with this or that announcement? How are they going to do? And yes, we should anchor ourselves, but talk to me about how I can find or navigate that peace in my mind, and not feel like I need to take radical action like we've seen some people do. How do I stay steady in uncertain times?
Okay, one of the things that's so important is to guard ourselves. And so you guys having children, you guard your children. People guard their families. They guard their houses, right? But we need to guard ourselves. And you have to guard your eye gate and also your ear gate. So you got to watch what you see and watch what you hear. So today, studies have found that most people, when they wake up, they go to social media. So what's that doing? That's all of a sudden they're seeing things, they're hearing things that are going into their mind and into their spirit. So you have to really guard what you see and what you hear. So the opposite of that is meditating on the right things.
Mm-hmm.
When you meditate on the right things, it takes you to better places.
I love this topic so much because I think you're right. People are so heavily influenced by the things that they see, the things that they hear, and it impresses upon them,
Yes.
right? And I don't think people really understand how much that can impress upon them and change their being and change their way of thinking and change their ability to be steady. And I love the idea, instead of trying to just detox from everything that's not right in the world, focus on what is right in the world, because it can get all consuming trying to completely filter out everything that could be wrong or incorrect or influence you in the wrong way.
I call it living up in a sometimes down world. So the interesting thing about life is that somewhere children are still laughing.
Yeah.
So I was at a public event yesterday and I saw these little kids, they were playing and they were cackling and laughing. And I said to my friend, how great is it to just hear these kids laughing?
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's so many terrible things going on in the world, but to those kids, they're still living in that innocence. So I think that you can maintain innocence even in your 70s and your 80s and your 90s. My mother's 93 years of age and she still has a lot of innocence. She's still got a flow. She's still got a vibe and she's still very funny.
That's great.
You also, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, you encounter a lot of people who, one of the reasons why they might reach out to you is because they've hit rock bottom.
Yes.
So on one end, we can definitely look up and say somewhere there are children laughing. On the other end, we could say there are definitely people in this world that are going through things that are much more severe, harder, more difficult than whatever I'm going through at this time. I'd love to get your perspective on that, because rock bottom's not like a hard level.
Right.
It's subjective.
Right.
How can we not arrive at rock bottom before we actually start listening to some of the teachings that you give?
Yeah. So, I think in life, sometimes we go through delays. We've all had projects or ideas or thoughts that there was a delay. It's almost like being on a freeway and there's a delay. Sometimes there's a detour that we take, that life gives us a detour, like the pandemic was a long detour for the world. Okay. But then sometimes there's devastation. And I think that sometimes that people, they don't pay attention to the delay. They don't deal with the detour correctly and they end up in the life devastation. And so what I say is really pay attention before we get to that place where things really go to a devastating place.
Well, there's power in acknowledgement.
Yeah. And can't some people see that though? Like, 'cause this is interesting because let's take gambling or drugs or any sort of addiction. Don't most people see that devastation coming, but they can't stop it?
I would say 100%. I think that a lot of people who may not even see themselves as addicted to, let's say, gambling, okay, or addicted to alcohol, they know that they are in trouble, but they don't know what to do. But that's what's so important about the power of partnership. And this is one thing I love about you guys with your marriage. I ran into you guys on the airplane and literally a couple hours later, I was just meditating on your guys' relationship. Because I thought to myself, you caught them when they didn't know that you were going to catch them. And you guys were laughing and joking with each other, right? And that's not like all couples. You guys been married how long now?
Ooh, like most couples. I'm the one that doesn't know. How long?
8 years.
8 years.
Okay, so 8 years.
Together for 16.
16.
16.
Okay,
14.
Well, guys, a long time.
Long time.
Okay.
Long enough, he already forgot the dates.
Yeah, but the awesome thing is that you guys have stayed connected. So the power of partnership is so important in turbulent times. We have to really learn to partner with each other and gain strength.
And turbulence is such an interesting thing, isn't it? Because I remember for me, so this is a strange fact about me, but I actually love turbulence in an airplane.
Yes.
I really enjoy it. And
that is a very strange fact.
Strange fact. All right. But I remember reading about like what turbulence actually is. And there's a lot of pilots out there that said that turbulence is actually a wonderful thing because it allows you to understand the plane's ability to adapt and its resiliency.
Wow.
Because it moves in the air. If it was too stiff and it had no adaptation, it wouldn't be able to go through that turbulent air.
Okay, that's powerful. I've never heard that.
And I thought, well, that is a very powerful thing in life because oftentimes we go through turbulent times to test and enhance and amplify our ability to be resilient and adapt so that we can come out stronger for something greater. So sometimes it's also saying during these times, who I surround myself is important, but recognizing that those moments are also important.
I like that because I think it goes also with the power partnership, because if you're going through turbulent times and you have somebody to hold on to, it makes it better. Yeah. Because you feel like you have somebody with you. And I think that's really what the world is looking for right now. Yeah. Is the world is looking for community. We do need each other. We'll always have our differences, the way we view life, our different backgrounds that we have. But as humans, I think we have that commonality of having the need to share, to be loved, to be accepted, to be cared for.
Yeah. I want to talk for just a few moments about the people who might be watching or listening and they are doing well. Because it's easy to fall into when you're doing well. It's easy to become complacent. Yes. It's easy to think it's always going to be this way. You forget, a lot of people have already forgotten the difficulty of COVID. We forget what that's like. Obviously, we don't want someone to dwell on the negative, but how can we maintain our sharpness and not fall into complacency when things are going well for us?
Yeah, I think what Robert Schuller used to say is that we need an attitude of gratitude. And so Oprah was the best in the 2000s. On her show, she would always talk about having gratitude. Brene Brown teaches now a lot about having gratitude. The attitude of gratitude is something both of you practice and that I practice. I mean, what a privilege to be in SoFi Stadium today, right? Southern California, to be alive, to be well, to be pushing forward. So I think it's important that even when you are riding a 15-foot North Shore wave, right, in Hawaii, and your life is going so amazing, and everybody thinks you're so amazing, and you're a size 2 as a woman, that you have that gratitude, and you're just so thankful that you realize you're blessed, and now you want to be a blessing.
Yeah, love that.
Well, I want to wrap up with I'm going to call on Preacher Tim.
Yes.
I want a message of inspiration. Yeah. Like give us something for anybody who is out there and, hopefully they stumbled on this. This is what happens. Like somebody stumbles on the podcast. Oh, yeah. And they're like, oh my gosh, Tim Storey was on and I felt like he was talking directly to me. So I'd love for you to tap in. Yes. To Preacher that Tim. Message for somebody that you just know they need to hear. What do they need to hear?
Yeah. So I want to say that when you have a setback, don't take a step back because God is already preparing your comeback. So what is inside of us is the setback comes. You want to keep taking a step back and step back and step back, but hold your ground. But when you hold your ground, don't sit in your setback and don't settle in your setback. Because truly, when you are in the middle of that pain, that comeback is already on the way. And last thing, a comeback is not a go back. So don't look for life the way it used to be because you'll be looking for the rest of your life. Just realize we can fail, but to quote John Maxwell, we could fail forward and keep on going on.
I love it. I hope that message was destined for you. I hope that you are a brand new listener and you're like, oh my gosh, that message was exactly for me. If that's the case, reach out to us. We would love to hear from you and know that today's podcast spoke to you. Tim Storey, one of the greatest inspirations for so many people. Thank you so much for spending this time.
What a privilege.
We are grateful.
We're grateful for
these
and stay happy. My God, you guys are good looking. This is a good looking couple.
Well, all right, everybody. We'll be back again next week with a brand new episode of the None of Your Business podcast.